Okay, we're ready. And are we on?
Yep.
We are on. Okay, can you hear me now? Hi. Well, welcome to Coffee with the Councilors. I'm Nancy McCarthy, and this is City Councilor Robin Risley, as if you didn't already know. We've only been doing this for what, almost 2.5 years? Something like that. Wow, long time. So welcome to all of you. We'll do it as we have been doing lately, and that is go around and find out what you'd like to talk about. And then we will go ahead and have our discussion. So and of course, we have nobody in the city hall and city council chambers because of the restrictions, our COVID restrictions. So you're all on Zoom today. So Deb, would you like to start and tell us what you'd like to talk about? Just tell us what you want to talk about. Just
I'm more into listening mode today, and if I come up with something, I'll say something. Right now, I'm just kind of want to listen.
Okay. Betsy.
Well, I'm in a listening mode as well, although I have to say it's really exciting to see that work's being done on the old elementary school. I walk by it all the time, and I'm like just so pleased that the city's chosen to do this project, and I think it's going to be great for our whole community. I really appreciate it.
Great. Betty.
I just want to listen today, but I also wanted to make a comment. I was able to listen to the meeting that the city council had with the Planning Commission and the DRB, and I was so impressed and so heartened to see how committed everybody is and how it seems like everybody's on the same page. So thank you so much for all your hard work. It's very appreciated.
I think those are going to be interesting meetings, and I would urge everybody to tune in on them. If you can't, come to the Zoom session at the time, please do look at the recording afterwards, like Betty did. That's really going to inform what our village is going to look like for probably the next 10 or 20 years. There have been so many concerns about so much building and where it's being built and how it's being built. And we're trying to strengthen our ordinances so that we can avoid any mistakes. So please feel free to participate and feel free to watch those meetings, and we'll let you know when they happen. Ginny.
I also am in listening mode today, although my dog might be in talking mode. I'm out on my front porch, and I plan on doing some weeding, so I'm going to turn off the video and mute myself, but I have my ear pods on just to listen.
Okay. It's going to be a very silent session today, I think. Never. Richard, welcome.
Thank you. I am again here just to listen, and I appreciate your doing this and all you guys do.
All right. And it looks like we have Suzanne as well today. Welcome, Suzanne. It's the first time we've had you here.
Hi, thank you. I'm just here to see what you guys do.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
thank
you.
Apparently,
we're not going to do much of anything today. He's in the middle of listening. Hannah, what would you like to talk about today?
Hi. Yeah, I guess I'm also here to listen a little bit. I keep hearing complaints that not more people are participating in the public process. And so I want to make sure, even though I'm working, since 10 a.m. on a Monday is a work day for most people.
Okay, well, good.
As well as being someone who, is half of most people who do participate's age. So I want to make sure that, young people who live in town are participating as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Scott, welcome. I don't think you've been with us before. So
I was just sort of interested in conversations today, but more specifically about any other news or knowing about annexation and who's trying to apply for annexation.
Okay. Yes, that has become a topic that we've been having to deal with lately. Lynn, do you want to talk?
Les wants to talk. I'm unloading groceries.
Okay. Hi, Les.
Hi.
I'd like to touch on code enforcement for, just as a topic for a little bit. I've turned in several of the code enforcement requests on the website, like we were told to do, but we never hear anything back, and if it's an after hours type of thing, is that still what we're supposed to do? Or I don't want to call the police. Anyway, I'd just like to touch on what is the process for code enforcement here.
Okay, and we do have our police chief, Jason, here today, so he will be able to talk about that. Eric, what would you like to talk about? I think Eric is probably away from his computer at the moment. Okay, and then Jan. Jan, what would you like to talk about?
Yes, hi. I wanted to talk about city staff. Kind of a concern that city staff is advocating for the food tax, trying to clarify what that means.
No. Okay, all right. Well, we do have our police chief, Jason, here today, and we have, of course, our city manager, Bruce.
And Rusty.
And Rusty, of course, is here.
Yeah, or we wouldn't.
Or we wouldn't be here, yes. That's right. Robin, is there anything you'd like to talk about today?
I think there are a couple topics here that are really interesting. I do want to agree with Betty that I thought the meeting we had with DRB and Planning and Council was very collaborative in its own way. I mean, everybody had their own opinions, but I thought it moved beautifully, and I was impressed too at how well that went. And then again, Anna, yes, I agree. Get more young people on our meeting, because we really invite you, and your opinions are very important. And Scott, annexation, I agree. We need to be very careful about that and who's wanting that. Anyway, those are good topics.
All right. Well, Betsy talked about the Cannon Beach Elementary School. I'm going to ask Bruce to give an update on that.
Yeah, the council approved an expedited process to make sure we could get the roof on before the rains. I think we got it about 45 minutes before the rains, but we did get it dried in. And so that's good. And then at the next meeting, I think it's October 5th. I think somebody probably needs to mute. I think, John, is it you that?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah,
Jan, if you would mute.
I think
There.
there.
Before, okay.
I just did it, yep.
At the next meeting, council will approve or at least review an RFP or a request for proposals for architect engineering firm. And that's for the Cannon Beach Elementary project. And so if that is approved, we will be advertising for an architect and an engineering firm. And because of the nature of the project, it's an old building. There's going to be a lot of surprises and things. Council will also be talking about going with a different delivery method for the construction. Instead of doing a design and then bid and build, where you have a general contractor come in after the design is done, we're looking at doing something called construction manager / general contractor, or CMGC, where you hire the contractor for a fee shortly after you hire the architect. They work with the architectural and engineering firms on the design, the phasing of the projects, how it'll be built, materials, all those things. And then once the project is set up for bid, and they actually help do the bid packages, once that has occurred, they will become the general contractor again for a different fee. So instead of them coming in, bidding on a project that they've only seen the plans, they will actually be involved with the design and all the decisions and advising the architect on conditions they find. So we think for this project, that will be the best delivery, the best delivery method. So if council does approve that, we will probably be maybe 6 weeks later or something like that, be going forward with RFP for what we call the CMGC. And then we'll be off and running.
And an RFP is request for proposals, right?
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And once the architect is selected, then we will have public meetings about the design?
Yes.
Okay. So the public will be involved in the design and at least giving their opinion on the design and what we want to use it for. So we still have a lot of public involvement planned for this.
Did that answer your questions?
So does anybody have any questions about that, about the elementary school? This is going to be a very quiet crowd today, I think. Okay. Scott wanted to talk about annexation. So what can you tell us about annexation, Bruce?
Council and staff had a discussion, I think at our last meeting, and we talked about what would be involved if someone did come into to annex, and you know what the city's rights are, what the property owner's rights are, those sorts of things. So we tried to do it without any specific piece of property in mind, just the idea that we would develop a framework with everybody. So that's been done. We do have one annexation application in, and it's for a piece of property that's in the urban growth boundary, and it's on it's the road that goes up to the water tank.
It's called Waterhouse Road?
Yeah, Waterline Road, Waterhouse Road, or whatever.
65 acres.
It's a property there that is it's kind of sandwiched between the city on the north and the south. And they want to come in and annex in. It's probably 2 or 3 lots. And it's that's all I know about it right now.
One of the things that I brought up when we were having that discussion is that I felt that the Watershed Council and the city should get together to do a study that would encompass more than just whether we had enough water for the city, but whether we had enough water for our environment and for wildlife to be considered along with fish. And so I'm really looking forward to having that study done before we make any annexations.
Well, this is actually why I wanted to be involved. I did go listen to the work session on the 14th, and I understand all that information. I was just wondering, and in concern of what you were just saying about water, Robin, that it is a big concern as far as having more population and more buildable lots, and needs to be analyzed carefully.
Yeah, I agree. Because we have some of the best water, I think, in the state, number one, but also we have a very heavy tourist population that uses that water. And it's my understanding that this was the first year since 2014-15 that we used water from the creek. And that's very concerning to me.
Did we have, it seems to me we had at least an analysis done within the last couple of years.
We did.
On water supply.
We did.
What did that analysis say?
On pure water supply, it said, and again, not taking in all the factors that Robin was referring to, but as far as human consumption, that we have enough water for likely annexations for and the city for the next 20 years.
It wasn't a full-fledged
But
study,
it was just
no.
for whether we should provide water, not whether it would maintain our beautiful green environment. And also, we have brew pubs that are using our water. We have all sorts of different other elements that I don't think are maybe being considered. Is that right?
There are brew pubs. I don't know what other elements you're talking about.
But were the brew pubs and the water they use being considered
Yes,
in that study?
yes, because they are part of the current water consumption.
Okay.
And so the projection was based on that continuing on.
Betty?
I have a concern about water use. I know in places like California, they are limiting water use. We don't have that problem now, but I'm concerned that a lot of people come here that are second home users, and they'll spend the whole day power washing their property. I mean, it seems like hours of power washing, and I just feel like that's such a waste of precious water. And I don't know if we want to, I know this is a democracy, but it just seems like a gross misuse of water. So I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on that, but it certainly would be nice if we could at least make people aware that this is a precious resource.
Betsy?
Well, Robin, I really agree with everything that you said. I think as the climate's changing and in a way that maybe we don't even imagine what it's going to be like, that we can't just consider, do the people have enough water to drink, but that our entire environment, which is reliant not only for physical beauty, but for our own health, and more importantly, our safety vis-a-vis fires, that we really need to consider carefully our water. And as for taking water out of the creek, I walk up the, now that the forest reserve's open again, I walk up there and see that those ponds are being used, but are they filled? They're not filled during low water runs in the creek, are they? Don't they get filled when it's like the middle of winter, when there's hopefully going to be tons of water again?
They are filled when the water from the springs is not adequate to take care of the demand. And the water doesn't actually come out of the creek itself. It's a like a dewatering system underneath the creek. And so it's taking water from, so it doesn't interrupt the flow. It takes it from the saturated soil underneath. You know, understand what I'm saying with like a, if there's a, I'm trying to think of what the right word is.
I guess I can't really visualize something like that because I'm not a hydrologist or much of an engineer at all. But it sort of sounds like you're fracking the water out of the ground, sort of.
No, we're not fracking because we're not expanding anything else or changing any hydrology. I think
Bruce, would you be referring to the aquifer?
No, I don't think it's the aquifer because I don't know. I really don't know how deep the aquifer is. But what I'm talking, I guess it's groundwater. If you dig a hole, and I don't know in Florida, if you dig a hole a foot deep, you're going to have water in it. But there's water that is right underneath the surface. And so there's always water underneath the surface of the creek. And so we're taking the water out of that and not taking it out of the creek flow.
Well, hard to visualize that one, but I guess I'll take your word for it.
Thank you, Betsy.
So did we take water from the creek or under the creek this year?
Yes, we're doing it right now. And what happens is it gets put into those filtration ponds, the water that comes in. And so those are only used when we're taking water from underneath the creek. And then it goes through the treatment process.
Okay. We're going to have a little diagram of that, I think.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see that.
But it would be good to get a study, a collaborative study with the Water Council to get a better sense of what we actually have or don't have.
All right, any other questions about that or about annexation?
I have one more question about
Sure.
annexation. Have we ever been approached by the land across 101 that I think Windermere has a sign on the road right now that's the 3 past properties that Greenwood was selling? Has that ever been approached to Cannon Beach about annexation?
They have not approached the city of Cannon Beach, although some of those properties have approached the fire protection district. And I think at least one of those was annexed into the district.
And so
the result of that, we're under no obligation to provide water, wastewater, or anything else because they go into the fire district.
And was that in reference to what Jeffrey Adams had said on the 14th meeting that the other, someone else was approached, but it was never reapproached about annexation?
I don't know. There was a party that contacted us, asked some questions and never came back. And then there's the party that we're talking about, which is the 3 lots. And they have filed their application and it'll be going through the process.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks, Bruce.
I have a question. I don't see a place to raise my hand, but I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Are the water lines as old as the city hall? Are
Probably
they
older.
in need of upgrades that could also benefit from this food tax? Or because what's going to pay for all of that? I mean, I'm sure there's got to be upgrades needed on water lines.
Okay, I can answer that because that's a factual question. And the city is already in the process of working on a project called water supply resiliency. And some of the lines are quite old, and they go up to our 3 springs. And then also we have a water tank that serves us well right now. However, it was designed before there were any seismic conditions or any that was ever considered an issue. And so there was no seismic resiliency built into the tank. And so from the water supply people, which is the city, we look at it that if anything happens anywhere from the springs down, it goes down by the RV park, then it gets pumped back up to the tank and then back down into the system. Any of those systems break, any of those components break, we have no water for the city. So the council is, having staff aggressively pursue those projects so that, and the material that'll be put into the pipes it's a different type of material. It's flexible. It can withstand a seismic event. I think that the joints are also somehow different than what you would normally see with the coupling. So yes, there is the possibility. We are working on water supply resiliency. We're also another project, which I think is phase 2 or 3, is to try to run a water line along 101. Because the water, for example, for the north end, it goes down into the neighborhoods in the city. And then all of those lines are the ones that kind of supply water to a pipe that goes under the creek. And it's not on the creek, it's actually underground. It's, and then comes up on the other side. And so if there's any problem with the system before that goes underneath the creek, then there is no water to the north end. So we want to run a line, a dedicated supply line to supply the north end along 101. And then we'll do the same thing running down to the Tolovana tank so that we're not relying on water getting into our tanks to come from lines that are running through the neighborhoods.
And how are you funding all of that?
Right now, the funding is anticipated to be from increased rates. But one of the, let me see. One of the possibilities for funding for the prepared food tax is also to help pay for the debt service on that project.
Okay, well, that's a new addition. Also, when we get to Jan Warmond about the city being involved in answering questions, I want to comment on that because I haven't been able to get a hold of, I haven't talked to Bruce for over, since August, because he made it very clear that he could not talk to me anymore. And Jason, I even emailed him about a fireworks question and he didn't answer me any either. And I've been told very clearly, because I am involved in the food tax, voting yes, passionately, they have told me that they cannot talk to me. Even Mark Reckman has told me he cannot talk to me. I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. And I think it's crap myself because I think it's free speech, but there seems to be some real backstabbing type of stuff going on. I mean, people should be able to have a right to talk how they want. And it makes me kind of angry. And I can't find out facts or anything because nobody wants to talk to me because they're scared. And I don't think that's a healthy, I think that's dysfunctional, really dysfunctional, but that's the way it is because like what Jan brought up. So Jan, can you respond to me about this? Because I want to answer that and put it to rest because I'm involved in a group that is pro-tax and
Okay,
I'm very
Deb, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. The next topic is code enforcement, and then we will get to the questions about staff.
Okay, and I just want to be able to answer that.
Nancy?
Yeah.
I would like to do an explanation whenever it's appropriate.
Sure, yeah, we will definitely get to that, but right now, the next topic was code enforcement. And Jason, could you tell us what the process is for making code enforcement complaints and then what the follow-up is on that?
I would love to.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours.
Opportunity. So yeah, when we get a code enforcement complaint, whether it's verbal or through the mail or the application you can do online, it will come into the code enforcement officer, but also to the community development director. And I believe Lieutenant Wilbur also gets that, those complaints when they come in. And so they meet once a week, the community development director along with public works and the lieutenant from the police department and the code enforcement officer meet once a week to discuss what's coming up on the agenda and different things that complaints that are coming in as well as follow-up. I will mention to them that follow-up and acknowledgement is crucial, just to make sure you guys are being heard and that if there's an issue coming up or something that comes in, at least acknowledge that you received it so that there isn't that angst on your guys' end, wondering if something's being done about it. Obviously, sometimes things take longer to resolve, but I think keeping people updated is the most important thing. So we'll certainly make sure that those are being addressed. And if you guys don't get the follow-up you need, you can always call me and I can find out an answer.
Les, did you have something in particular that you were concerned about?
Well, I don't really think this is the right venue to discuss the concern I had, that specific one. I did turn it in on the form, but okay. it was something that was after hours, after work hours. It was a noise concern. And of course it ended when the noise stopped. And so if there's something like that, there really doesn't seem to be any other recourse to that I as a resident have other than calling like 911 or, calling the non-emergency police line. I just wondered, is that the best way to proceed on something that's after hours and not likely to get looked at immediately?
Yes, if it's something like a noise disturbance or something that's going on at the time and it's after hours, you can certainly call the non-emergency number. And there's always a Cannon Beach officer on. It may go to Seaside Dispatch. They take our calls after hours and they transfer it or dispatch it to the officer that's on duty. And if it's something that's not going on at the time, they can follow it up with the code enforcement officer or the next shift to make sure it gets resolved and that you get contacted as well.
Okay. Yeah,
And
Jason.
you can call in anonymously too.
What's that?
You can call in anonymously as well. You don't have to give your name. If you want to have a neighborhood dispute, you can certainly call in anonymously as well.
Hey,
I have a
Jason,
question.
Whoa, wait a minute here.
Go ahead.
Ginny, go ahead.
Well, I have a question on that. When I listened to the short-term rental task force meeting, Jeff Adams said there'd been like 24 complaints in 2 years, which just seemed unbelievable since I feel like I put in 10 myself. So when I talked to Travis about that, he said that at one address, if it's the same type of complaint, it only counts as one. So even though I might have put in 10 and my neighbors might have put in 3 or 4, if it was the same kind of complaint at the same address, it only counted as one. Is that true?
I don't know how they track those.
Because we have, I know on our reports, our city council, we have a general report of what's been going on in the city. We have that, we get that once a month. And sometimes there's like 12 or 20 complaints or 24. I think this month it was 24 complaints alone. So this month.
Yeah.
So however that's counted. Yeah. So I mean,
that number
they're pretty busy.
So that number that Jeff Adams shared was probably not current.
It may be a different stat that he's keeping, but every time we take a new incident, we take a new case file number.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think this month it was 24. So that have been either answered or resolved or working on. So, I mean, it keeps one person pretty busy. Hannah,
Totally.
Hannah, you had a question?
Yes, thank you. So I was wondering about the noise complaint situation. So my property happens to be right next to a wedding venue. And there's a number of times that I've called in about noise complaints, and I've gotten mixed messages from police officers as to what the actual law is, in terms of like how loud they're able to be. Jason, could you just give me like, what is the rule? Because I feel like I shouldn't be calling about it because, maybe with a event permit, they can bypass the noise ordinance. Like, what's the truth on that?
No. It depends on what it is, but you can certainly always call, and there is a time frame on when you can have noise, depending on what it is and based on the permit they have. And even if you call something in, we'll still follow up.
It's green.
And most times they'll be good about bringing the volume down because they understand they're in the middle of a neighborhood, but also we can check on their permit and go forward with action on that, whether it's the person that's in charge of it that signed the contract with the city. But no, you can always call it in. It may be something that it's based on the decibels, how loud it is and the time that it's going on, but yes, we will follow up on it.
And then does the code officer then give a report to the person who made the complaint?
Yeah. No. Well, the officer would. It would depend. Code enforcement doesn't work at night, but yeah, the officer, if they respond to it, they call back and let them know.
Hannah, has that been your experience?
No, that's not been my experience. I've called the, officers. They've come, they've chatted with me for a few minutes, and that's about it. I monitored the decibel level at this property, on my property, and it's been extreme. And I mean, are they even getting permits for the wedding events that they hold?
I don't know which ones you're talking about specifically, but I do know a lot of wedding permits come through.
Okay, I don't know. I think it's kind of ridiculous that, you can hear their music sometimes 2 or 3 streets away and they're in the middle of a residential neighborhood, like you mentioned.
So that would be
Yeah.
true. That's Haystack Gardens. Is that right? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
we should follow up on with Haystack Garden and find
Yeah,
out.
no, I want to say it was last year that they had concerts back there too, because of COVID, but yeah, they had permits for them and there was restricted time.
Yeah.
As well.
So,
And-
hey, this is Les. Can I add one thing before you move on?
Sure.
So my complaint was Haystack Gardens as well, and for excessive noise. And the thing that really kind of got to me, and the reason I turned it in, I mean, it clearly was much noisier than most wedding venues that they have, and they've been really good about it. But when I went over and talked to them, I was told, well, this is a live band and we have no control over it. And so nothing happened. I was very unhappy with their attitude. And so, yeah, I think it would be interesting to know if they have some kind of special permit, because they were clearly outside the decibel range that was allowed at that time of the evening. That's all I got.
Do you know what time of evening that was, Lynn or Les?
Yeah, it was at 7:30.
Okay. I think our time is like 10 o'clock, but I'm not sure.
Well, see, the thing is, though, if you read the code, and unless they've got a different permit, the decimal level is 60 from 7 a.m. until 10 p.m. and 50 from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next morning. And they, like I say, they were not only way louder than they've ever been before, but I don't have a calibrated decibel meter, but I guarantee you they were about 80 when I checked it. So anyway, I just was curious as well. I'm with Hannah. Do they have some special permit? They seem to feel like they do.
I know they do get permits for certain events that they have, but I'll follow up with Ryan Snyder and also with the community development director and find out what they've been allowed and what the restrictions are, but we can certainly maintain it. But in the future, if you're getting calls and the officers aren't getting back to you, or you're not satisfied with how the call's being resolved, please let me know, because I'm not here 24 hours a day and neither is my lieutenant, but some things may get past us that are happening. So please always let us know if it's not being handled properly.
Yeah, contact Jason directly if you're having any problems, because I'm sure he would like to follow up with it and get back to you on it. Right, Jason? Right, okay. Yeah, that can be really annoying. I know the farmer's market has their music, and actually we have complained sometimes at the farmer's market that the music is too loud right there, and they turn it down because they have speakers that they can turn down. So, I don't think it's impossible for them to not it's not impossible for them to turn down the volume on the music. So I don't understand what their response is in terms of, well, we can't help it. So, all right. Well, if we have any other questions or comments about that. All right. The next topic is whether or not the concern is Jan's concern about city staff getting involved with the food tax. Bruce, would you like to explain what isn't it the Ethics Commission or state law that can't?
I'd like to hear what Jan has to say, so
Okay.
I'm sure I'm covering whatever her issue is.
Okay, Jan, would you like to comment?
Yes, so I was concerned listening in on the city council meeting recently that Bruce was suggesting some things such as that pamphlets be created, I assume by the city, to be given to the voters. And I thought that the city resources were not supposed to be used for purposes for the food tax. I thought that would fall into that kind of category. So I guess I was concerned about that. And then I remember also I'm pretty sure it was at that same city council meeting that somebody mentioned that Bruce had spoken at I think it was a Wednesday morning meeting, which is, I think, largely a business, a meeting of all the businesses or many businesses in the town. And I was wondering about that. And then I also heard that that there was some consideration happening that Bruce would be going to some sort of cafe and speaking. So to me, that seems like advocacy work, and that I would hope that, if Deb or somebody else that's in favor of the food tax was going around to different groups, that would be a much more appropriate way to do this. But I don't think it's appropriate personally for city staff to be going around and talking about the food tax at this time. And so I had a question. I was trying to get clarification on this. Also, the city resources for a pamphlet or something, for printing pamphlets.
Okay, Bruce, would you like to talk about that? I think that was when we were talking about the city hall.
Yes. No, actually, it does go beyond City Hall.
It was what?
There was things in the pamphlet that go beyond City Hall.
Okay.
But staff is prohibited from doing anything that would be considered advocacy, but we are able to make any statement or answer any questions on a factual basis. So, for example, the pamphlet, we are drafting that right now. It talks about what the council has agreed or is contemplating to use the PFT funds for. There's nothing in it that advocates that somebody should vote for the program. It just says this is what the fire district plans to use the funding for. This is what the city plans to use the funding for. And that's it. It's just answering questions and giving factual information. The staff is under a pretty high level of jeopardy if we do violate that. For example, if someone were to file a complaint and I was to be found that I was actually advocating, then when that is being investigated, the city cannot help me in any way. I have to hire my own attorneys, my own case, all those kind of things. So it's a very strict thing to make sure that staff does not get involved. But from a factual standpoint, there are details that staff is aware of that council may not be. And so we are allowed to deal with things on a factual basis. And going back to Deb's, point to saying that she and I have not, communicated, you or anybody else that can send me questions. And if they deal with facts, I can respond to those. I can clarify issues. But if the question kind of leans towards, don't you think that it would be, if this thing passed, it would be good for this, I can't respond to something like that.
And the business meeting you went to was the Wednesday morning meeting, and you talked about trees, didn't you?
Yeah, a lot of the discussion was about trees. I don't even think I touched on the PFT, but Hannah, you were on. Do you recall if I even talked about anything about the prepared food tax? Or Eric?
I don't think Eric's.
I was busy last time you called on me, but yeah, the meeting, yeah, you came in to talk about trees. And that was basically it. I'm kind of seconding Jan's concern. Though, during this specific meeting, you didn't mention anything. We didn't talk about PFT at all. But with the amount of backpedaling that you have to do, you specifically have to do, Bruce, to kind of defend your position. I feel like you may not have done anything as its advocacy, but with the amount of backpedaling, the public perception is that you're doing advocacy. So I would just to like reiterate to be careful with what you're saying, and with the amount of having to go back and re-explain that you were not advocating, you were providing facts. It's concerning, and the citizens see it, and they're concerned.
Okay, and again, it's, I'm in a position that I tend to have a lot more information than others might. So I am careful, and I appreciate your counsel, Eric. But again, I'm just trying to provide factual information. Hopefully you'll see that when council reviews the brochure or the flyer. We've downgraded to a flyer. So and it's just information about what the fire district will do and what we might do.
Well, as I understand it, the flyer that we were going to get for our September 28th meeting, which is a special meeting, is basically the facts about the city hall, what the costs are, what the location might be, the size of it is, and that's all factual. That's not supporting, in one way or the other. We haven't even actually voted on the city hall yet officially until the September 28th meeting. So that wouldn't be considered a supporting document for the food tax.
And also there's been other discussions, for example, somebody had asked a question about the infrastructure, maybe it was Deb. Because we think that there will be more coming in than just to pay for what the debt service is. There's also a suggestion that it can be used to offset the debt service on the infrastructure projects. So we're just trying to say that these are the kind of things that the funds could be used for. And what I don't want to have is, and again, council can modify it, but what I don't want to do is say that we're going to do city hall and we're going to do here, and then there are other funds. And then the city is locked in because we didn't tell somebody that we might spend it on another use. And so that's why there will probably be a couple other suggestions for use based on past conversations.
Can I speak too?
Sure, go ahead, Deb.
So that meeting I read the notes from the meeting last week, and it was about trees. So Jan, that's probably something that is supportive to your cause on trees and to all of our cause. And he did not speak at all about the food tax because I looked at the notes specifically. I would really like to see Ashley come forth and define this for the people who have questions because I think that it needs to be clarified what you can and can't speak about because there are some facts that are needed, and I am very clear about asking for facts only. I have not, like I said, talked to Bruce since before August or Jason and Mark. I had made it very clear that he can't talk because he can't talk anymore. And I'm dealing a lot with Yachat City Council and people down there, and I have questions such as, that I'm doing research for because I'm doing a lot of research, and I was at all the meetings, and I can do talking points, and I'm the one putting out all the flyers. So it's not coming from the city. I want everyone to be clear about that. It's coming from me and my graphic artist. So she does it, and I know a lot of the facts already because I'm educated about it, and the city council can talk about it. So I think that needs to be clarified.
That's true.
One of the other problems, like Yachats maintains restaurants create problems for sewer treatment like fats, oils, grease, known as fog. So there's an additional justification for the tax to be collected through businesses that have more direct impact on water waste treatment. So if I get something like that, I want to know the facts. I'd like to get the answers to that. Well, what about Cannon Beach and that? And I have no one to turn to. So what is a reasonable request for that with facts and people not getting paranoid about it? If they have questions, they should come to me because I'm involved in this in a big way. And I really believe in it because I believe in our first responders being safe and protecting us. And I believe very strongly that the water and infrastructure is a big safety concern. So, you know, all of those things. And I believe I'm very passionate about it. So, and I am very educated about it. So if anybody has any questions, they can call me. But I want anybody, if they have any concerns about the city's not talking to me at all. They're scared to, I think. So because
Deb, I kind of want to address you feeling like the city's scared to talk to you. By you placing yourself in this extreme advocacy role for it, it puts the city in an extremely delicate position. And same with the fire district itself, either chief or Bruce or anyone that's in any kind of management position that could be in trouble for talking or for advocating. If they talk to you specifically, with you being in such an advocacy role, it definitely jeopardizes their ethics to be able to do that. So it's just because you've placed yourself in this role and you claim yourself as the one that knows and the one that's fighting for this, it makes it too dangerous for anybody to talk to you about this.
I understand, Eric, and I will stand on my own and not expect that. I don't want them to get in trouble. And my, husband's a firefighter. He knows about the ethics commissions and what was involved with campaigns and so forth. So I'm very well aware of it. So I haven't been talking to them to be involved. I haven't talked to them at all. So for a long time. So anyway, let me just rest your mind on that. I'm just.
I was just answering your question as to why they're scared or why they appear to be scared. They're not scared. They just, in order to maintain that independence from a political issue, they have to. It's it'd be because of what you said. So that's just answering your question as to why they have not responded to any questions from you because of the position you've placed yourself in.
Right, and that's why I'm dealing more with Yahats. They can answer it because they've lived it. So, and I don't want to get anyone in trouble here at all. So I want Jan to know that they aren't talking to me. And so you don't need to worry about that. And I don't know how I can get facts if I need them. And I usually go to the city council who can talk about it. So Nancy, can you address that?
Well, I know you have come to me with questions. I don't know what did you want me to address exactly?
That you can talk about it, right?
Yes, I can. Yes, the city council is allowed to talk to express support for the ballot measure and to answer any questions. City council is not bound by this law or this ethics commission requirement. We are not city staff, so we are not paid. Believe me, we're not paid. So we can answer questions. We can express support. We can express our opinions. We can talk at a forum. We have the freedom to do that. Yes.
Nancy, can I make a statement? As a city manager, I see my responsibility is providing factual information to anybody on any subject, but in particular on something that is important to the city and is going to be voted upon. So I am, for example, I send anything that comes to me when I do a response. I copy the attorneys on it so that they know where I'm staying within the boundaries or not. But I will answer the questions because I feel that's a responsibility, and I feel that I would be abdicating that responsibility if I didn't provide information, factual information, and not going over the line of advocacy. But I will continue to do that. And Deb, if you want to put it into a question, I'll go ahead. If it's factual, I can answer it. I will answer it. And that goes for anybody that has a question on it.
Okay, so then can you answer about the fog?
I didn't hear. Deb, this is an example. That was not a question.
Oh, okay. So, no, I know.
Anyway, it's not a factual question.
Okay, that's not. So can I ask how do I do that? Do I ask the question? Because
let me before we get into that, Jan, has your question been answered?
Somewhat, yes. Thank you.
Okay. There was one thing that you brought up that I'm totally in the fog about, so to speak. And that was a cafe, going to a cafe.
Yeah, it was an email exchange with Lolly Champion. And when I first came and interviewed here, I happened to go over to the Bald Eagle, and there were a bunch of people in there that were very interested in city things. And I said that if anybody had any questions, I would be willing to come over to the Bald Eagle and have conversation.
And that,
Again, but that was just something because, you know, that's actually where I met Lolly. And we decided we're not going to do that. She might try to set up some other sort of a thing that anybody that has questions. And but that's just me trying to reach out and talk to people. But it was not in an advocacy sort of a thing.
how long ago was this?
That was like last week we were talking about that. And one thing, you know, Deb, you'd mentioned that you would like some clarification on what can be, you know, what is advocacy or what can staff do and all that. That's been answered about 5 or 6 times, and I will try to find I don't know, either minutes or something that the attorneys prepared, and I can get it to the counselors, or if you want, I can send to as many of you as. I tell you what, if you all would email me, my email's on the website. I will send you a copy, but let me find where that's been answered, because it's been answered several times.
Right, I'm clear on it, but I don't want to get you in trouble by asking anything. So just tell me if it's not factual. Then I won't ask it. You can just say, I can't answer this because it's not factual if I send a question. I mean, I know what Ashley said. I was at the meeting, so I'm trying to kind of triangle here with Jan, because there's suspicion out there that you're doing something that is not. And I just want to clarify that Jan's comfortable with the answers, because there seems to be a little bit of still question about it.
And I'm staying within the law to the best of my knowledge.
Okay.
Ginny, did you have a question? Oh, you're on mute.
No, I didn't have anything. I saw we were coming to the end, so I thought I'd reappear from my weeding job.
Oh, okay. I've got a bunch of weeds at my place. If you want to come on over and do that, that'd be great. All right. We are about toward the end. Does anybody have any other questions?
Can I
Sure,
throw out a
Scott.
little fun factoid that's actual
Sure.
factual stuff?
Fun is always nice, yeah.
So it kind of refers back to Deb's question about water lines. So I had moved to Cannon Beach in 1975, and one of the first exploratory things I did was my interest in the watershed. And I went up to the source pool and discovered pieces of coped wood pipe that were wrapped with wire.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I immediately started looking for wagon wheels and whatnot. You know, it's just like it took me back.
Wow.
Fun factoid.
Wow. Did you find any?
No wagon wheels, but plenty of old pipe that Cannon Beach used to use for their water supply line.
Yeah. That's a wonderful area up there. All right. Anybody else have any 3-minute question or something that we can handle in 3 minutes?
Well, I just want to say that I think it's really important that our water lines are up to date. So if there is an earthquake that we have water, I mean, that's a scary thought to me. So I just support our infrastructure for water and sewer, and making sure it's all up to date in a very competent way, like what Yachats is doing.
All right. Jan, did you have anything you wanted to say? I saw your order on. Betsy.
Well, I would just like to say I had the opportunity to read something that the mayor, Sam Stidell, put out, and I thought it was really interesting, and that I hope everybody understands that when hopefully the food tax passes, that nothing is a slam dunk about the money. And I think you've referred to that tonight a little bit, councilors, that, you know, everything will be under public scrutiny and open to through the budget process about how that money will be used. And as we continue to have more and more demands on our town, that I just hear a lot of griping about, well, I don't think we need a new city hall or something like that. And I really hope that people can understand that there's just more at stake here in terms of the livability and future of our town, and all the things that we're going to need money for. And I've been here a really long time, and we've been talking about different ways to get day trippers to help us pay for some of these services. And I just hope people get a chance to read Sam's letter. I thought it was really articulate and well thought out. And thank you, ladies and city staff, for being there today for the coffee with the councilors.
Thank you, Betsy. I think both Robin and I are definitely in favor of public involvement. If the tax passes, we will be looking at it through the budget committee and making decisions about how it's used. And it is not going to be one of those secret processes that goes, you know, we have no secret processes here. Everything is public. And that will be the case with the food tax as well, if it does pass. So we hope you all will be involved in that. So I think we are coming to the end of this. Anybody else have one final word? All right, it is silent. We are listening. Okay, we're in meditation mode now. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And we will see you next month. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.